Well, thank you for coming in, Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Greetings, Central Coast, New South Wales, Australia. A little bit, buddy. There he is. Can you see him? I'll point him to you. There he is. Well, thanks for coming in. The daughter did the protest yesterday with the Palestinians in Sydney. She said it wasn't too bad. They didn't go too bad. So I got the dog again. Her partner is the part of the Australian riots, quite very strong-willed man. Okay. Proverbs 23:24, Psychology Through Theology with Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your comments. I really appreciate it. And I hope that the content is satisfactory. Not sure. We've got a weather alert. I'm not sure what happened there. The father of the righteous man will greatly rejoice. Now, I can see the reality in this, because when you've got a son that's wayward, that's not going right. I've had one of these. I've had two of these that have played up a bit. And I wasn't happy about it. But this is where, as a parent, you have to do the work. You have to be able to, 1 Corinthians 6:1, when one of you has a dispute with another, be it a believer or not, you have to face it. You have to face the problems. And I'm not saying to shame people or anything like this, or to cheat people, but it's to help these people come out of their folly. That's part of being a parent. And in 1 Corinthians 6:9 it says, don't you realize that those who do wrong will not inherit the kingdom of God? I guess it comes down to whether you're going to believe that there is a kingdom of God or not. It doesn't matter whether you believe there is or there isn't, because there is. And this is going to be a problem for a lot of people later, as they go into the later parts of their life and realize that there is a place called heaven. Many of you Christians have Christian people have Christian pedigree, and you've forsaken it. You've decided to indulge in sexual sin, to worship idols. You just make up things. A lot of these idols are your own thoughts. A lot of you people have been married and you've just jumped the fence. A lot of you have become same-sex people because you've been abused by the opposite sex. Many of you give yourself away. You just find someone and you turn up and you give yourself away. You thieve. I've had women thieve. And you're greedy. Now, these greedy people could be narcissists getting the supply, the emotional supply from you. We know there's drunkards everywhere. And drunkards can also be people that are stuck on the high of the supply that they get from you. But this is more the alcohol type. And are abusive. Now, abusive is not always yelling and screaming. It can be passive-aggressive behavior, not texting, not talking, staying at a distance, not playing the right part in the relationship, saying nothing, not sharing, and that is actually cheating you. All these characteristics in the spiritual realm are narcissistic, and these people won't enter the kingdom of God because they don't want to. They don't want to, and that's the point of this. A father will rejoice in a person, in a son, in a child that's trying to do right. But how can they do right if you're not standing up and saying, hang on a second, listen here, it's a daily job. It puts you in a position that's uncomfortable. This can also be what you need to do in your relationship. You have to make sure, without being over controlling or anything, that things are on the right track, that things are going in the right direction. You see, a lot of people, parents, depend on their child to get it right. They've got no boundaries, they've got no abrasiveness, they've got no iron sharpens iron, they've got no psychological development for the child. They haven't led by example, and they're just depending on the child getting it right. So they're living in an environment where there's a lot of ego stroking, a lot of praise and admiration, a lot of sarcasm and antagonism, but it's not producing the power to get things right, to make the right decisions, to be in the right place at the right time, to make the right money. It's all just ego stroking. It's all just survival. A lot of these people are just in survival mode, and it should be more than that. They're just in survival mode, plodding along, hoping for the best, crossing their fingers that everything will work out right, and it doesn't. They're watching their children trying to run relationships with drugs and alcohol. They whinge and complain. They lose the relationships they're in. They're not willing to make the effort, or they just change. Their narcissistic behavior changes. The children watch their example. My stepfather was a drunk. My first father was a womanizer. I learnt from that. I learnt from that at a young age. I got left school and went into the slaughterhouse and was humiliated for years, cutting animals up and chopping up things. You got no idea the horrors of a job like that. I was brought to my knees and held there, emptying cows' stomachs for years on end, months on end, blood, urine, organs, brains, eyes. You had to find something inside you that was going to make the right decisions. It wasn't about just smoking drugs and drinking beer and smoking cigarettes like the majority of the people there, trying to get the nicotine off their fingers in the showers. I watched it all. The diseases that men got as they got older. How they ruined their families because of this and because of that. You have to pass this knowledge on to your children. But what if you do? What do you do if you have refused to have it? If you've refused to come into the light? A lot of people just will not come into the light. They won't come into the light. So they just flounder along onto the next ego hit, and then things go wrong, and it goes wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong. And nobody's got an answer. Stroking the ego ain't going to help now. We're all in debt. Our relationships have crashed down around us. We haven't communicated. We've pushed the boundaries. We've lost our direction. We've got rent to pay, massive amounts of rent. People aren't throwing in. They're all relying on you as the parent, and you're enabling their dysfunction. They're whinging, they're whining, they're sick. These are adults. They're dependent on you. Your partner's thrown the towel in. They've just had enough of it. The attitude and the hostility. Oh, no. That's why a father rejoices. The father of a righteous child, person that's developed in the right direction, rejoices. You have nothing to rejoice about if you've got it wrong. Oh, yes, you brought them into the world and they're your child. And, you can grandiose your children as much as you like, but that ain't going to get them on the right track. There's no guarantee that they're going to be on the right track. And this is where we deceive ourselves. And he who's a father, he who fathers a wise child will delight in him. Now I'm going to ask you, have you put your children in a position where they're wise? And the only way you can tell is, are they straight? If they're not straight, if they're on alcohol and drugs, they're not wise. You've created a fool. I don't care if it's male or female. There's a lot of females now that just rug themselves up. They're fools. They're not right. They're going to be underneath. They're in great sadness. Doesn't matter what front they put on. Okay? And a lot of these people have had the opportunity to turn things around. They've had the light come in and they've turned away from the light. They've just despised it. They didn't want it. And who have they got to blame for that? Only themselves. Okay, there's a lot of people running around trying to blame everybody else. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. You will not overcome the light. This is where a lot of people go wrong. That's why they're not getting to the point of rejoicing. When you come into the light, it's like coming out of a storm, and the relief, your whole psyche changes. Your whole internal calibration and makeup and condition starts to change. When you start to go, I am going to get this right. I'm going to get my health right. I'm going to lead by example. A lot of children a lot of parents can't rejoice in their children because they haven't given them the example. Just getting up and going to work, stoned or pissed, hungover or whatever, getting up and drinking before work or medicating up before the devil's lettuce before, that does not work. Because by the end of the day, you're psychologically ruined. You got to do it again in the end of the day. You're frying your brain. You're keeping yourself in the darkness. You're keeping yourself psychologically in debt. And the way your mind is the way the universe will follow you. If your mind is in debt, the universe will bring you debt. The parent of a righteous child will greatly rejoice, and he who fathers a wise son will delight in him. And the responsibility, for the most part, is, have you led by example and have you taught the right things? I'm Reverend Dr. J.W. Morrison, theologist. Thank you for coming in, and bye for now.